So what we want to do now is to be able to reset the game when our players have won a match, or to be honest, at any point really is when we're going to reset it, but functionally it'll be most useful when our players have finished the game. So what we're going to do is, in here, we're going to go into our game manager script, and we're going to add a little bit of code that will make it so that whenever our player presses the R button, it'll reset the game. So what we're going to do is, just below where we're checking to see what our score is, we're going to add a new if statement and say if the input.getKey. What we're going to do is check when getKey is pressed down, not just when it's held down, because then what will happen is if someone was to hold down R, for example, the game would keep resetting over and over and over again. But what we want to do is get key down, because as we talked about before, get key down happens the first moment that a key is pressed. So as soon as our player presses the button, and the button we're checking that they're pressing is keycode dot R. So as soon as that happens, oh, we need a second close bracket there. It was confusing itself a little bit. So the second that happens, we want to run a little bit of code in here. And a little bit of code that we want to run is basically so that it will reload the current scene that we have open in our game. So back in Unity here, at the moment the only scene we have within our world is our level 1 scene. So when we're running the game, basically anytime you're doing different levels within a game, it'll be running in a completely different scene within Unity. So what we want to do is, if we're resetting it, we just want to reload this scene back to its default state. So to do that, we need to access the scene management of Unity. And to access the scene management of Unity, much like we did with the UI, we have to go up here and say using Unity engine dot scene management, like that. And so then when we press the R key, what we can say is, okay, go to the scene manager, and we want to load a new scene, and the new scene that we want to load is the currently active scene. And the way to check what the currently active scene is basically to say is scene, go into the scene manager again and say get the active scene. So get active scene. We want to put a couple of brackets there, and then on the active scene we want to get the name of that scene. So whatever the name of the active scene is, we're sending that out and telling it to load that scene. It's slightly an awkward way. There was previously a much simpler way to reload scenes within Unity, but they've kind of changed it so that now in the current version of Unity it's a little bit more awkward. But once you get used to using it, it becomes kind of second nature. So we'll save this and we'll go back into Unity, and what we'll actually see when we go to test this out is it'll cause an error, but we want to demonstrate that first, and then we'll explain why it causes that error. So that's compiled. We're going to hit play, and once this is going, we'll just let it play for a second. We can see we've got a score of 1 and 0. If I hit R now, oh, it actually did reload the scene. I thought it might not reload the scene because there's a slight error that happens with the scene management, but because we didn't encounter it, we can actually explain it a slightly bit later when we will have it happen to us when we go to add a main menu to the scene in just a couple of videos. But for the moment, we can happily know that it will actually reset the scene just the way we want it to. The only other thing now is our players don't magically know that pressing R will somehow just reset the scene. So what we're going to do is we're going to zoom out to our big canvas again. I'm going to activate our little windscreen text, and what we're going to do is create another bit of text below that. So we're going to right click on it and create a UI text, so it's a child of the current bit of text. We're going to make this white as well, similar to previously. I'm also going to make this a little bit wider just because we can. I'm going to hold Alt to make sure I'm stretching it out equally. I'm going to center this bit of text, and then we're going to move it down. And basically all we're going to say is press R to reset or to restart the game. So what that'll do is just, it lets the players know that, okay, you've won the game, now you can press R and it'll restart the game. So I'm going to deactivate again the parent one, which is the whatever player wins. I'm going to deactivate that, and that'll deactivate the child. But then what will happen is, as soon as this object becomes active and it says player 1 wins, the child object will also become active within the game. So now we can reset the game happily and we know what's going on. So now that we've worked out how to make our players be able to play the game together, let's add some simple kind of AI into the game so that we can have a single player game and be able to challenge ourselves to practice more and more as we go.
Konnichiwa.